What's going on, Rocky?
Yo, I think I finally figured out the technical issue that was blocking us from streaming live on the Facebook group. Now I just need to know if the text messages, if the messaging, so let me see. Let me message us, see if this works. See if something pops up.
I'm looking.
See, my commenting isn't, the commenting isn't working.
I see test.
Oh, there it is. Good.
I see it.
All right. Well, we're back in business after a month.
Yeah, we'll see about that, my friend.
Come on. Don't be a Debbie Downer. Oh, is that gender specific? Should I say don't be a, I don't know, pansexual downer?
I can't help you there. I can't help you there.
What are you doing?
I'm moving things around to get more people to watch us.
That a boy. That a boy.
I'm on Facebook. Sorry.
No, hey, listen, spread the word, buddy. Spread the word.
I'm not good at multitasking.
Yeah.
By the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, where'd you put the rest of Scott?
50 pounds later, buddy.
Sorry, did you have to get all new belts?
No, but well, I called you from the mall the other day, right?
I know.
So today I went out and bought 3 more shirts.
I saw that today too.
I'm not going to say that Brooks Brothers isn't my favorite store now, but you know,
some good stuff in there
because now they fit again.
I don't.
There was a time when they used to fit, and then I had to go to the big and tall, but I wasn't tall.
Just big.
Just big. And now I dropped 50 in like 4 months, and I'm back to what I'd call a normal size, but I'm still not. I'll never be a small guy.
I don't think that day is ever. Those days have long passed me.
That's long past.
There's some things I enjoy too much, and if I don't live to 85 because of it, okay, I'm okay with it.
Do you want to explain to the audience what's with your hacking and your
my bronchitis? I have RSV. That's what I got. It's not the vid. It's not the vid.
Yeah, it's not. It's that flu that has the. I'll wait for a couple more people to come in. Let me see. I don't know. I posted. It's on my page.
It's in the article that you posted. I did peruse it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's going around. It's this RSV.
Well, so RSV used to be exclusively, according to my wife, Dr. Vera, she said RSV used to be just children got it. That was it, right?
Yes.
She's also a pediatric nurse practitioner. So she said that it was very odd that this started happening, but what happens is these viruses mutate because they are very smart. And what RSV did is it said, you know what, I'm going to jump into this flu thing. And as she explained to me, it's like a car. So the virus is driving, the RSV is driving the car. The car is the common flu. And it drives through a wall, the car gets totaled, and RSV just jumps out and goes nuts. That's how it's basically.
Well, it's sitting in my lungs going nuts. I'll tell you that right now.
Yep.
And welcome to the Cyber 2022. I'll make this brief, but we've all had experiences where we've had to go to the RMV, the Registry of Motor Vehicles. I don't know if it's the same in Florida as it is up here. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Not that bad.
they can't even get the online tools right. Like, why can't I book the appointment and get the email and then say, yep, I'm good? Can't do it. So I had to sign up for AAA. And then when I went in to look on AAA's calendar on their website, I'm assuming they're linked to the RMV, and that's why there were no appointments there. That's my assumption. Because there were no appointments, and they said the calendar refreshes. So I got to go in tomorrow and try through AAA now to see if I can get my license. It's just my license. It's not even the real ID. That's the next step.
I remember, you know what you say in the RMV. When I was growing up, it was the registry.
Right.
You got to go to the registry. I got to go. And everybody knew it was the registry of motor vehicles, right?
And you brought lunch.
But it was always the registry. It wasn't like, and then I left Massachusetts. I went in the military, and the registry turned into the DMV. I'm like, what's the DMV?
Oh, yeah, Department of Motor Vehicles.
Department of Motor. You mean the registry?
It's still the registry.
That's what I would say.
It's still that.
You mean the registry?
Still
like,
that.
what the hell? What are you talking about, registry?
Yeah.
That's what it is. So, all right, let's jump into the show. As people can see, I finally figured out how to get us back onto the Facebook group. So your meeting was last week, right? You attended the town council meeting where they voted on what's going on the ballot.
They didn't vote on it. They're still talking about it, but
still talking about it.
Yeah, okay. We got time. Yep.
All right.
I did. It was good, by the way. It was good.
Right. Did certain things go in a direction you didn't expect?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because I completely forgot about it.
See, that's why I'm the producer.
It's my stuffy head.
I'll give you that.
It's my stuffy head and my laziness. Okay. All right, I'll stop. So, first of all, it was very nice to see that the whole committee, for the most part, actually, the whole council, for the most part, understands the job that was done, what has to be done. I don't think they're as divided as we initially thought in terms of what their role is. I mean, there is a little bit of, hey, we need to vote. Yes, we know you need to vote. But I do think some people would like to still remove certain things. At the end of the day, to John Munson's credit, he was very vocal about the fact that he does like the idea of a recall, as long as it has a high bar. And he's he says, I'm looking forward. I'm certainly not quoting verbatim, but he was looking forward to working with the council to put together some language and sharpen that proposal. But the big win for me, and I saw the guy coming in on my way out, Tom Riley was showing up to the meeting after I was walking out. And
Tom Riley is who?
The first council president ever.
Okay.
And he had shown up to a couple of our meetings via Zoom, when the ordinance review committee meetings via Zoom. And he was, pretty well set against 4-year term for the council president.
Let me stop you there for a second.
Okay, so
being that a former town council president, does that hold water with current town councils? Does it's like a former president has a little bit of stroke still, does he still have a little stroke?
Yes.
With the council?
Yes, that's a good question, because where I was going with that, I was just about to say, he initially showed up to the meetings. We were having hearings before we finished our work. And he initially was like, no, recalls are divisive. We shouldn't have it. And no, the 4-year term, he was against that too. And that night he went in there, and unbeknownst to me, he was in support of the 4-year term for the president. He was in support of the recall language, as long as it had the high bar. And he was actually neutral on the precinct councilors versus at-large councilors, meaning there's a proposal on the table to go all at large. The concern basically boils down to this. The concern is, are we going to have the Mays be running Winthrop for the foreseeable future? And that was his concern, actually, it would come down to a few, but he made some eloquent arguments that night, I guess, he basically said, I could make arguments both ways. The bottom line is he thinks the people should decide if we should go all precincts or all, or currently break it up into precincts and at large, or go all at large.
And this will be, of course, next year. on next
Right.
year's ballot.
It'll actually be on the ballot next year, I think. It has to go through the state, then it gets on the ballot. It wouldn't be implemented until 2025, I believe.
Okay.
So the people, and the rule, the use variance removal, he spoke for that too. That seems to be something that's going to happen. So all the developers out there, I know interest rates are high, but 2 years from now, you're going to be going through a longer process to get your buildings approved, your projects approved. It's going to be, a planning board, a zoning board, a town council meetings. I don't know the actual mechanics of it, but it's not going to be simply going before the appeals board and getting your variances.
Have you heard anything on Fremont? By Fremont? Nothing?
Well, I shouldn't say that. I did text the folks, the people who reached out to me that wanted to come on the show originally. There's the appetite for that has subsided a bit because they're feeling good about the direction. However, they were going to get back to me. I know that Chris Brown is the developer, if I remember correctly. He's been working with everybody. He's been great. We know they're going to come a certain amount of feet back off one side, and they're going to be setbacks 10 to 15 feet, and they're going to come down a floor, so that top of that elevator shaft is coming off, and that whole building shrinking down a floor.
So it's going to be 4 floors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so. Yeah.
Well, I hope that everything works out, and I'd like to think that we once again kind of moved the needle in that direction and pushed the issue forward so we could help the Cross family out. I know they were appreciative of our attention. I got messages from.
Well, if nothing else, which was supposed to be the whole point of this, people in Winthrop who own property kind of got to look into what could happen to you. So when that use variance question is on the ballot, you want to vote to remove the use variance from the ordinances. No more use variances.
And when the time comes, we'll still be on. We'll still be live streaming.
Well, we're gonna, and you know what? I was just thinking. We were just talking about this. The folks on the ORC were like, well, once this is done with the council and the state finishes it and it makes it to the ballot, and we know it's a thing, then the work begins. Then we got to sell it. We got to promote it. We got to educate. We got to put the information out there.
Seems a bit more reasonable, that poor family. Yeah, yep. Absolutely. I don't know who that is. I'd have to look on my phone, whoever the commenter was.
Oh, maybe I will.
Oh, yeah, you do that.
I could do that.
You're the social media guy this evening.
Oh, hi, Liz. Thanks for chiming in.
Who is it?
Hi, Liz. Liz Gagan Sorrentino.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Did I get it right?
Friend of the show.
Yeah, and she's signing off on the.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever.
Friend of the show.
I have foggy brain.
So 5 Fremont, we got that. You got your ordinance review committee. That's on the right path. 5 Fremont's on the right path. You know what's not on the right path?
Yep.
The Winthrop Public Schools. The Winthrop school system.
Yep.
With their activist teachers. Now, I know you people, some of you might be like, here we go again. But you have to pay attention. I've said this, I don't know how many times. They plan on you ignoring it. This It that I speak of is a book that's now we come to find out it's called, I'm Jack, not Jack. Call me Jack, not Jackie.
It might simply say Jack, not Jackie.
Jack, not Jackie. The point is, right, it's for second graders, right? So, what's that?
I think it's in first grade.
Even worse.
I think it's in first grade.
Even worse. These activists, the gay activists and their supporters. So I'm not going to do the whole letter thing. I refuse. They are insisting on pushing these agendas in the Winthrop Public Schools. And They're moving the needle, as I say. They are. Hey, I always give them credit. They're organized, and they execute their plans. They had a game plan and they execute it, and they're doing it. And parents are just some of them are just kind of like, I don't want to get involved. Well, you know what? You're going to get what you deserve when the time comes. Unless you speak up. If you don't like it, you need to speak up, because that book was supposedly, wasn't it kind of portrayed like it was in the library? They said in the resource sections, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'd have to look up the email.
But
yeah, I'd have to look up the email.
One of the parents was in on a post on the group's Facebook page today, and said her daughter found the book in her room, in the classroom. How did the book get there? Well, evidently, when they say the book is in the resource section, every classroom has a resource section.
Allegedly, they have resources for these types of things in every
classroom.
That's what I haven't been in there. I haven't been in there.
So my question is, why? Why do they have these resources? Who let the resources in there? What is the need for the resources? You know, these people, they are attacking first and second graders with their agenda, their radical gay agenda, and knowing that children that age they don't have abstract thinking, but they want to get to them. It's like kids will follow a rule, but they don't understand the dynamics of the rule and what goes on behind it. So what they're doing, in effect, these activists, are they pushing it in the kid's face, and the kid's going to go, oh, I guess I'm supposed to do that. You know?
So let's put a pin in that for a minute. Let's stop there, because this is let's take the politics out of it for a minute, and let's just actually, let's take the politics out of it, because there are people who are going to say, okay, you're losing me at activists. Okay, that's fine, because
they are, though. But okay.
Maybe you're losing me. Maybe you're losing me too, because I know the principal of that school. I don't know the assistant principal, but I'm not gonna dox anybody. I get information from people that know those people, and they're like, they're not activists. Okay, fine. Maybe they don't really understand what's happening here, because first and foremost, let's forget about everything. The biggest thing I'm concerned about is the fragility of children in general. Okay, a first, second grader, a kindergartner, these kids, they're just innocent little creatures that can be molded and imprinted upon very easily. We all have had some unfortunate circumstances on our upbringing, right? We've all have had things that have happened to us, some worse than others. Obviously, that's kind of how life works. What we also know is, whether or not you buy into this transgender and affirming surgery care, whether or not you believe it, here's one undeniable fact. The folks who we now have a set of data, a cohort of people who have been transitioned for 10 or more years. And we have a lot of data in that cohort that tells us not so fast. Because once you go down that path, and if you have the surgery, you can't reverse the surgery. And by the way, the suicidal ideations are actually more intense. In other words, you're not assuaging the pain. Is that the right word? The pain isn't being assuaged, calmed. You're not getting the peace you're looking for. The reports are they get pieces of peace, right? So first they start with the puberty blockers, and they feel good, and they feel better for a little while, and then that ceases to help. And then the next thing is whatever the next step is in affirming care. I don't even know. And then that stops helping, and it escalates to the point where now you're cutting your breasts off. And when that doesn't help, now you really want to off yourself, because you've removed part of your body. And let's remember, women especially, and by the way, this transgender thing seems to be much more common in women, I guess, this gender dysphoria thing. Let's remember, women go through much more, at least in my opinion, serious changes. I mean, they grow boobs, they have a a menstrual cycle. That's a different thing for them. It's a lot for young people.
Yeah, I think we're putting the cart before the horse right now. I mean, we're going way beyond, and I understand what you're saying.
But you got to have the context.
Have the context, yeah. But I want to break it down to even simpler.
Okay.
Why is the book even necessary to be in there? Who said that this is an appropriate book? Were parents told anything about this until somebody found out about it, right? This is where I say activism. You can be an activist, doesn't mean you're a radical mother. You can be an activist in a very passive way. And being complacent in letting things happen gives you're in the activist world because you know what's going on. You just kind of,
Well, you could be that, but you could also just think it's the right thing to do.
Who thinks it's the right thing? And just because I don't think it's the right thing to do, but if common sense dictates that you leave first graders and second graders and middle schoolers and third and fourth, you leave them alone because they've always been taboo in this country. In this country.
It's true. You're right. However, one of the women tonight gave an impassioned pro speech for the book. My 7-year-old read it. It's a lovely book. Either she is deliberately distorting reality or she really lives in that. That's her perception, her reality.
It is there, but they live in the hive. There's no doubt about it.
You're still going all activist. They can't just be what's his name?
No, I didn't. Todd, no. Don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say all activists. That's a parent. I didn't say the parents are activists. I say the teachers and administrators are the activists. They're the ones that bring the book into the school. They're the ones that agree that this should be put in there. They don't leave it to the parents. I suppose if they asked the parents, then that parent would have said, "Sure, I don't mind."
Do you think? All right. So, do you think the intention is? So, are you going? When I say all activists, what I'm saying is, you're going in like that. Everyone that's involved in putting the book in the school is an activist. Is that your position?
If you're complacent with activism, you're an activist.
Okay.
In my book.
Yeah, listen. You're entitled to that.
Yeah. I don't think that any adult with a half a brain in their head thinks it's okay to talk to these. I posted it the other day. Is it all right? I want to ask these people, do you mind if your neighbor talks to your child about gender identity or their gender issues? Do you think it's okay if your neighbor did that? No. Then it's not okay for a teacher to do it. That's all I'm saying about this.
You know where I stand on that.
Oh, I know. You and me aren't arguing over that.
No, and we're arguing because I want to force an issue here, right? I want us.
No. We talked about this beforehand, and I know that you think maybe I come across too strong with the activist label, but I've been told from somebody firsthand that that's what this is. Now, I'm not saying every teacher is an activist. I've said that before. There's a lot of good teachers. But like they say about cops, one bad apple, right? One group of rogue cops, and every cop is bad, right? You get a group of rogue activist teachers that have an agenda, and they're in the cocoon of the school, and they have total control of every minute of every day, and they push it on these kids. And the parents, they don't care. They don't care.
Father Walter was at the meeting, and he spoke tonight about the Europeans a little bit. He and I have, like I said, we have coffee. We talked about this ad nauseum the other day over coffee, and he was educating me on what's happening in the European countries.
Right.
And essentially, just like the pandemic, The Europeans are ahead of us. This has already happened. It's already been in their school systems. They're already at the point where they're now starting to retreat from it because of the point I was making earlier, the folks who detrans, because they're reading the data that says, whoa, the suicidal ideations are even more intense and much higher after they've transitioned and had this affirming care. In other words, it does not work for everybody. So what about those poor kids that were tortured from if we allow this to play itself out,
right,
and we start in the kindergarten, how many of those kids from imprinting, because they're so young and impressionable, decide to go down the affirming path when perhaps they maybe just would have been gay, which is what happens 85-90% of the time anyway.
Right.
And that's all we're saying. So while I think the people who stood up and said the book should be in there, they think it's a wonderful thing, you read through it without thinking about these things. And yeah, it seems like a harmless book. Although Father Walter made another great point. He said, forget about all the other stuff. The book is basically gaslighting every issue that the feminist movement fought against, where you're saying, right? I mean, we have to.
That's right.
Women wear dresses. Well, do they really? Or isn't that what feminism supposedly taught us, that there's not a gender subscription necessarily to clothing and toys and jobs?
But this isn't feminism. This isn't radical feminism. This is a radical gay agenda.
Well,
it's what it is. It's not referring to, it's not saying, I'm a girl, I can wear pants. It's not saying that. It's saying I'm a girl and I can say my sexuality is pan. That's what this is this book. In the whole gaslighting, you nailed it. You nailed it. And by the way, somebody commented today, oh, here we go with the book banning. Couple of them. And I think what's her name? Lenora Foley, she made a comment on one of the posts about, book banning or something.
Whoa.
You know what?
On our page?
It was another one that somebody had sent me. That whole book banning thing, I think the liberals need to kind of wake up. Well, that's impossible in my book, but because I think they were the ones that started banning books like Tom Sawyer and Dr. Seuss and saying they weren't right with today's culture. They were offensive. And then they moved on to tearing down statues because they were offensive. So don't give me the istophobe, homophobe, any of that. No. That is just garbage talk, because this book, I'll agree, shouldn't be in there. But they have no problem pulling their books.
We're not banning it. Listen, hold on a second. Then it's not even banning the book. Just, okay. Do we want to put a steamy sex book in there too?
Well, what's next? So doesn't that open the door?
Well, all I'm saying is it's not banning it if we just want to keep age appropriate books in front of the right children. This isn't a book banning thing. That kind of inflammatory, and that was used at the meeting tonight. It's inflammatory, and talk about me. Everybody talks about me being a lightning rod, and you have people blatantly ignoring our beliefs, our thoughts. The parents of Winthrop fighting with us about wanting our kids not to be exposed to this stuff and not respecting our view at all, and then going to meetings and talking about book banning and homophobia. It's outrageous. It's really outrageous.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah. So somebody wants to know what was the end result? Anything come of this topic?
No, I mean, the end result is the books, as far as we know, the book is in every room in first grade in a resource center, which I'm sure has other resources that are associated with diversity, equity, inclusion, the gay community, the marginalized people, the othered, whatever other buzzword I need to use to communicate this. And the more I learn, the more I'll share, but it's not going to go anywhere because
you're in Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's a directive.
That's it.
If you go out to the DEI website, there's this guy, Paulo Freire, that Father Walter turned me on to. He's a late Brazilian philosopher, educational, blah, blah, blah. Basically, his his oh boy, my second grade daughter had this book in her classroom, so I'm
Yeah,
assuming every grade.
it is in every. Yeah, I'm sure it is in every grade.
I'm trying to find the notes. I took some notes on this cat because he was interesting. Yeah. Basically, the whole goal of his work and his writings was to overcome the barriers of childhood innocence. The part that's shocking about this is if you go to the DESE website, he's listed as a resource there, like for social justice issues. That's why we're having to have a DEI link on our website. And
Which
thankfully, we
DEI?
got the
DEI is
diversity,
what?
equity, inclusion, right?
There you
Remember
go.
that whole thing?
I know. Just for
And
people that might not know what it is.
oh, right, sorry. And the good news is we got the vulgar language taken down, but they're still out there pushing this theory of transgenderism, which at the very least, the science is far from settled. And in fact, the new data that the new stuff that's coming out about this cohort of people who are more likely to kill themselves because they're not feeling relief. Actually, in my opinion, gives us all the more reason to stop this where it is right now and let the parents deal with it. And if there's not a good parent at home, that's what Child Protective Services is. The objection here is simply teachers are not qualified, the children are too young, and the parents have rights. That's it. Very simple. I'm not
And
banning
activist
books.
teachers don't care. They want to push their agenda. And I'm not saying all of them. Like I said, there's some good teachers. There's some very good teachers in that school system.
I think the unfortunate part, there's a lot of shaming. There's a lot of
they're bullies. That's what I was told. They're like they will bully their way through any topic, any issue that they want to get pushed forward. You know,
you can see how they do it when they come to when Lee Foley gets up at a meeting and she speaks. Everybody knows the group of people or person, me, that she's talking about when she says things like othering and bullying and
she's the perpetual victim.
That's
by
a
the
bully.
Way,
that's a bully right there, right? Like it's such a cheap shot bully. And
they are just victim mentality 101. I mean, if a PhD candidate got their hands on this group and they were doing maybe their dissertation on victim mentality in the white middle-aged suburban woman, because that's all they are in Winthrop, most 99% of them, they would get their hands on that group. What a bunch of data they would get out of that. That would be a dissertation for the ages in the victim mentality.
Well, at the end of the day, there wasn't enough. The books are staying because there wasn't enough pushback. And
that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. Maybe I'm wrong. And you know what? I'm not wrong for my children. If my children were in that school, that book better not go near them. But my children aren't in that school. I wouldn't have stopped until that book was out of that school.
So what has to happen here? It's parents have to get in touch somehow, some way, and social media is one way. They have to find each other and then form and then rage against the machine. It's the only way it's going to get any attention. To sit back and not complain but not do anything is it's worth the paper it's written on.
And I want to, by the way, so I want to kind of just put a bow on this thing because there are not a bow because I'm not done talking about it, but the DESE, just follow the money here, right? It's always follow the money. The DESE is run, right? The Secretary of Education is Riley. He runs the DESE. He's a politically appointed position. And politicians get their huge donations in Massachusetts from the Mass Teachers Association. The Mass Teachers Association is heavily funded, in fact, fully funded by dues collected from teachers. So when taxpayers are writing their property tax checks that pay the salaries, they understand that your money is going to this Mass Teachers Association, the one that influenced Riley to keep the kids out of school, and the one who's saying this is a check the box thing. I mean, they have to do some of this stuff at the school level because of the Department of the Department of Education. Now, I don't know if this having the book there is actually a thing that they have to do, or do they just have to have resources? I don't know the mechanics of it. And frankly, I don't care, because the DESE told us to keep the kids out of school for no reason, right? I mean, we found out that this was a huge mistake, and oh well, let's move on. So the DESE, as far as I'm concerned, and what are they going to do? I'm tired of hearing that we have to follow the DESE. They're not.
What does that stand for, DES?
Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. It's basically the mechanics of the money printing machine, the democratic money printing machine that all of our public schools are. It's the central control point for all the schools in Massachusetts, right? They have to follow their guidelines. We get money from the state. We have to follow state guidelines. We get money from the feds. That comes with a price tag too. Unfunded mandates. It's the reality is our schools aren't even ours anymore. And that's part of the problem. It's how all this politics is creeping into our communities.
Yeah. I believe I did. I mentioned to you before the show, does Winthrop have a PTA, right? Parents Teachers Association, right?
Yep, we do.
And I think you had said, I had asked, and I think you agreed that it's basically a fundraisers now, PTAs. When we were growing up, and I know that's always like, oh, boomer. Yeah. Boomer this.
Yeah, no,
When we were coming up, PTA had a little stroke. PTA was the thing. Like, the parents were involved in everything that's going on, and teachers were active with them. From what I understand, you don't get many teachers participating in the PTA, probably because they don't want to deal with parents. That's another thought that I have. They might have to answer a question or two. Who knows? But, and like you had said, I think the high school PTA is more of a booster club.
Yeah.
For sports.
It's really just fundraisers for sports. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a very active. The most active ones are at the elementary level. And they're more about supporting fundraisers. That's, to help with supplies, to help with the teachers need in the classroom. I will say they're valuable. They're valuable to the community. They help. They certainly help. And they help. I think they help sometimes with user fees for activities too.
I think the mission has changed over the years.
Probably. I was never on it, but
no, but I know they PTAs used to have a little more say in what went on in the schools, because people would go to those meetings. They would go to the PTA meetings, and issues were discussed. But now it's the school committee.
Maybe we're at the stage of this activism thing where everything's incremental, right? Like, let's just think back 5-6 years. When my kids were in the Fort Banks, we weren't worried about them getting asked their pronouns. We weren't worried about that. We weren't, and it's not worried about it. It seems bad. There's a lot more to it than simply asking the pronouns, as you know, right? It could trigger a person when you put them on the spot like that. If you're asking their pronouns in front of a room, there's a whole bunch of. Anyway, the point being, not only are we dealing with that, we're dealing with ally boards that have all these strange new sex or genders on them, or
that
sexual.
They promote.
And it's like 6th graders are seeing these things called pansexual, and it's just too much.
Grooming.
We've jumped the shark. I mean, we've literally jumped the shark.
You know why it wasn't in the Winthrop school system 5 or 6 years ago? Because the teachers that are pushing it were still in college, learning how to push it. They were at some liberal college learning how to push this agenda. Not all of them. There's some good teachers, but the ones that get in. All right, here we go. The Florida Board of Medicine and Board of Osteopathic Medicine on Friday adopted standards of care regarding the treatment of individuals suffering from gender dysphoria. Dysphoria. During a joint board meeting, the boards each voted to adopt new practice standards for the treatment of gender dysphoria that prevent doctors from performing experimental gender transition procedures on minors. Yeah, no mutilation of minors. Basically, it's what it is, including puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and gender trans. That's why Florida leads the way in fighting this battle, and Massachusetts will continue to sink into the quicksand of this whole movement.
Here's the importance of this decision, by the way. The Florida Board of Medicine did this, not any political board, number one. But number two, we just laid out the case of why we should slow down a little bit on this gender-affirming care journey based upon this cohort of people who are detransitioning and who are really in
but
pain.
They're outcasts, Todd.
Of course,
they're considered outcasts.
Certain people don't want to talk about them, but they exist.
They do. So
there's that bad side effect of the gender affirmation care. But what about, you know what they say about puberty blockers? They say they're reversible. Not so fast. Not so fast. They affect bone density, right? Women get osteoporosis at a much higher rate than men because they don't have the testosterone levels we have. So those testosterone treatments and puberty blockers and the like, I'm sorry, not puberty blockers, testosterone is what I was talking about. Testosterone, taking testosterone is not good if you're trying to, a woman trying to become a man, because again, it weakens your bones.
Well,
it strengthens your bones, excuse me.
Those are issues that I'm sure they're told about, but somebody just commented, when people are doing that, they're warned about that stuff.
Well, they say it's reversible though.
Oh, yeah. Well, good luck. So someone commented, Massachusetts mirrors California. Well, that's a fact. You have Julia Pringles Wallace came from California and wants to make Winthrop little California with all her little moves, little chess moves, right? Don't take your eye off that ball. This is just about a book in the lower grades, but it's what this book can lead to, and that's what they want.
Well, it's overcoming the barrier of childhood innocence. When you turn something, when you look at Jackie, when you turn something like that, like a boy wearing girls' clothes, into a cute little story like that, you start to turn the whole subject into something less sensitive or less damaging. Yeah. And on its face, it's not damaging to wear boys' clothes if you're a girl and vice versa. But it's telling them that maybe you might want to be a boy.
Tell my wife this.
Clothes.
Tell my wife this, who is stunningly beautiful woman. Yes, I just come right out and say, if you just go on my Facebook page, my wife is a stunningly beautiful woman. And I tell her that every day. But she was a tomboy growing up. She wore jeans and, she wasn't wearing the dresses and the whole thing. But she was in the Philippines where they just, if it's going to play out, let it play out. And
that's it.
And she ended up being heterosexual, right?
Yep.
And that's the bottom line. But here, they'd be like, oh, look, Jackie is acting like a boy. You know what, Jackie? We're going to call you Jack. Yay. I guess somebody up here said we had the Beach Boys, meaning California. Yeah, well, we got Aerosmith, so take that.
The Beach Boys.
I love the Beach Boys, but we got Aerosmith.
Great Christmas album. They got a great Christmas album.
Yeah, a lot of their albums are good. Yeah, great stuff. Pet Sounds, one of the greatest albums ever made. Yeah.
Well, and I I consistently go back to this idea of what happened to keeping the bedroom in the bedroom and all this stuff in the house. Now we're not
You
only have
got
we
these
thrown the bedroom
new
out into the
teachers.
street, we're trying to bring the kids into it.
It's a whole, if you see all these lunatics, you know, and you can't help but see these videos. They show them on YouTube. They show them and all social media platforms. You see these lunatic teachers, lunatics. And I mean, and they're either bragging about indoctrinating the kids. They're all young. 95% of them are young, white, gay females.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So that's why it's all started 5 years ago. Like I said, they were all in school. They were all in college 4 years ago. You know, they graduated, I don't know, and they went right into the Winthrop school system, some of them. And that's what you get. They're taught to be activists in college. And they mix with some old school teachers who don't probably agree with any of this stuff, but they learn to bully their way through it. And I've already beat that horse tonight. But anyways, what else? So the elections are tomorrow, national.
Well, they're local but national, right? Let's
yeah. Well,
you got Carolyn Colarusso who's running against Catherine Clark. Woman's been working her butt off. I wish her nothing but the best. I think we need change. I mean, Catherine Clark is I mean, people of Massachusetts kind of have to wake up a little bit. Like, we have other issues here, infrastructure problems, you know, the list goes on, right? We need more funding for police departments. I don't know. We got opioid issues going on. Why do we have our congresswoman getting fake arrested in Washington over an issue that is not an issue here in the state of Massachusetts? Abortion, it's on demand here, pretty much. I mean, literally, remember I said we're going to have drive-thrus in Massachusetts?
Yeah, it's wide open.
A few weeks
that's
later,
the way the state wants it. That's the way the state gets it.
Yeah, delivery. You'll have delivery. They'll come to your house and do it.
But there's people in Massachusetts that know that Massachusetts is just it's a revolving door at the clinic, right? Don't do it, but they'll scream, "They're taking women's rights away from us. We can't do you. Oh, you can't. You live in Massachusetts. You're fine. You're fine."
Interesting. I wonder, by the way, this is a little bit off topic, kind of weird connection, but it just popped into my head. So right now in Georgia, and I think in other states, voter turnout, early voting in Georgia is smashing records. Remember when the rules down there changed because of Republicans, right? And they were castigating them that they're trying to keep people from voting. They've never had this many people voting ever. So I wonder how, all of the people who were squawking about free and fair elections, a local counselor at large, you might know, who was squawking about, January 6th and how.
Oh, you mean Tracy Honan?
Yeah, that one. The Republicans are trying to keep people from voting. I mean, the bottom line is
everything she said was wrong, by the way.
Absolutely incorrect.
She looked like an idiot.
Weird. Just something weird that popped into my head.
I got two words for that giant voter turnout. Herschel Walker.
He's going to win, too.
I'll tell you. Hey, listen. Someone asked me about this, and this is just, we're going to wind it up, but I'll wind this down. Somebody asked me, how do you think Herschel Walker, how do you feel about him going to Congress? I said, hey, they put that dimwit AOC in there. Who came up with the idea of, you know what? We're going to put you in, we're going to send you to Congress. Sandy, because her name was Sandy. You know that, right? It's not Alexandria. It's
I know
Sandy.
it. Yeah, it's Sandy.
Yeah. Sandy from BU. And so if somebody could take that dimwit, that 10-watt light bulb, and put her up on a pulpit and start, put the hand up the back and start, Charlie McCarthying her like they do. They tell her what to say. I think Herschel Walker would do just as well.
Savage.
Yeah.
Well, how do we know? Like, all right, so you have to say, you listen to Herschel Walker talk and you wonder,
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But how do we know how stupid he really is?
Well,
or how smart he really is or isn't. And and by the way, if he were a Democrat running for Senate and I made some of the comments that were being made about him, I'd be called a racist.
Oh, you're a racist.
I mean, my uncle, he can't even make a sentence. I'm like, if I said that to you, you would be castigating me.
Oh, yeah. You're a racist. I love that. I love that.
That
word doesn't even mean anything anymore, by the way.
I actually don't have a problem.
That word has lost all its power.
I don't have a problem with him being in there because if he turns up to be lousy, they'll vote him out.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's that.
Well, I don't know. They kept AOC in there.
Well, they think she's doing a good job.
Yeah, they do, huh? Did you see the last meeting? She had the town hall, one of the only ones she's ever had there in Brooklyn.
The one where she was doing this. Come,
they were heckling her. And, yeah, she comes out with the fake. And then she starts with the fake Spanish accent.
She was culturally appropriating. Did I use that term right?
Sandy from BU. Yeah, the cultural appropriator. All right, listen. Let's wrap this up. I have to go buy some Powerball tickets.
Oh, that's too bad. I already got my number. All right, go get it. Yeah, because you only got eight minutes.
All right, we're going to say this in front of everybody. If I win, you get $2 million. If you win, I get $2 million. All
right, deal.
And then we'll buy our own studio.
Oh, and I'm going to retire. $2 million it is.
I'm already, so, it's only going to
get out and vote tomorrow. All politics are local.
Yes.
Deal. Vote for him.
Yes. And like I always say, say your thing, Todd.
All politics starts at the local level.
There you
go.
Get
out and vote.
And I always say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. You are the engine that runs this machine. Without you guys, it would just be me talking to Todd. And, well, we all know that goes. And then I always throw this at the end of my podcast. Doing this show for you, to quote my favorite artist, Morrissey, the pleasure, the privilege, in this case, is ours. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you next Monday. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about.
Peace out, boys.
And if you got anything you want us to talk about, hit us up on Facebook. You know how to find us. We're not hard to find. So, all right, everybody.